George Washington was an American general and commander-in-chief to the colonial armies during the American Revolution. He served as our first president of the United States, 1789 to 1797. His ability to endure and overcome adversity contributed to his legendary status as a leader, a strong one at that. States like New Jersey and Pennsylvania had pivotal roles during the Revolutionary War battles. Our first stop is Washington Crossing, PA. Seeing the ice and snow on the water is probably reminiscent of how it was December of 1776 when they attempted the crossing. The flags located here outside the Visitor Center represent the 13 original American colonies: Virginia, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. New Jersey was founded by the Netherlands in 1660, captured by Britain in 1664. While many events took place leading up to the Revolutionary War, we're going to focus on George Washington today. So why was Washington fit to lead? Well, he had enough military experience from the French and Indian War. He had good leadership, integrity, political usefulness, and the ability to hold the movement together, even when victory seemed unlikely. And most importantly, holding the revolution long enough together to succeed. There were several times during George Washington's life where he came close to death. He openly acknowledged that God's hand was upon him and that God protected him and kept him through battle. The first part of Washington's command covered the period of July 1775 to the British evacuation of Boston in March 1776. Fast forward to Washington crossing the Delaware twice in December of 1776. It was cold, the situation was not looking good for Washington and the Army. His officers were even questioning their ability to continue on and his ability to lead. They were short on food, supplies, clothing. Some men had no shoes. But then supplies were restocked and Washington's confidence grew as his troops had what they needed at that moment. And their plan was devised. The British were forced to abandon their pursuit of Washington, but with the knowledge that they controlled New York City, they settled in their winter quarters. George Washington and 2,400 troops crossed the Delaware River from PA to New Jersey. There was a brutal snowstorm which had started with hail, which made it even more of a dangerous situation. There were 3 columns of men that were supposed to cross the river, but only Washington and his men were successful in this attempt due to the weather and lack of confidence on their part. Durham boats were used, and horses and cannons were carried on ferry boats. But to these men, it was victory or death. Washington knew that the assumption from the British was that winter was safe and that there was not going to be any campaigns for war. But that night, it took about 9 to 10 hours for them to get across this water, longer than Washington had planned. Washington used winter as a weapon, and the British and Hessians did not see it coming. Whenever I think of Hessians, I specifically think of Christopher Walken in the movie Sleepy Hollow. Anyway, while you're here at the Visitor Center, they have a short orientation film about Washington's crossing in 1776 and the 10 crucial days. You can also get tickets for guided tours. There is an exhibit here with different revolutionary history that you can learn about, and you can also go for a shop at the Visitor Center store. They have some cool merch. I really wanted those George Washington socks, but I didn't get them. Also have Assunpink Creek information and model here, which was the second battle of Trenton. There's many things to do here at Washington Crossing Historic Park. You can see the historic village, Bowman's Hill Tower. There's a cemetery where there's soldiers' graves. While it was really interesting to see what I saw here today in the wintertime, it would probably be in your best interest to come during the spring, summer, or fall so that you could check out the cemetery and other locations. George Washington had hoped to defend New Jersey, not run from it, and he turned his attention to Trenton, where British had stationed about 1,400 German missionaries, known as Hessians. So around 4 a.m. the next morning after they crossed, Washington's army began to march to Trenton. Despite being warned of the Continental Army's imminent assault on Trenton on December 26, 1776, Colonel Johann Rall did nothing to help the city. "Let them come," he said. "We will go with them with the bayonet." These Hessian troops had defeated Washington's forces before, and they didn't think that the Americans could handle them again in battle. The New Jersey Visitor Center here is closed for Washington Crossing, but it will be open later in the year in 2026. I encourage you to check it out when it opens. And also visit the state park on the New Jersey side as well. Our next stop was in Trenton, New Jersey. We didn't go to the monument because of the snow and the weather, but we did go to the New Jersey State Museum. After sunrise, Washington's troops surprised the Hessians, and within an hour, over 900 Hessians were forced to surrender. On January 3rd, 1777, during the Battle of Princeton, Nassau Hall right here became the final refuge for retreating British troops. This ended with British surrender. Following the victory at the Battle of Princeton on January 3rd, 1777, George Washington and the army went to Morristown for winter quarters, where they arrived on January 6th. The marker located here on the front lawn of the Somerset County Courthouse is the fifth of series of 13 showing the route taken by Washington and his army from Princeton to Morristown. This particular monument has been here since 1914. Washington established winter quarters in Morristown, New Jersey after the Battle of Princeton. The Army reorganized and prepared for future campaigns from January to May of 1777. This interestingly decorated statue is called the Alliance Statue. It depicts the moment that Lafayette told Washington and Hamilton that the French were coming to support the American cause. Morristown Green was very important during this time, and Washington's headquarters was located right here where Arnold's Tavern was at the time. The green here became a hub for military activities. Today you can walk around the park, get a hot dog, grab some lunch, see the sights. But in the winter of 1777, George Washington was able to supervise his troops here, and the two churches became hospitals for soldiers with smallpox. This sculpture here is called the Patriots' Farewell. Our next stop is South Bound Brook, New Jersey. The Battle of Bound Brook took place on April 13, 1777. It included 4 lines of attack by British and Hessian forces on the American garrison at Bound Brook. The main attacking force came right over here where the Queens Bridge is currently located. Of course, at the time, the bridge that's here now did not exist. The bridge we see here today was constructed in 1984. There's been several changes over the years, and this was once a wooden bridge. The plaques I just showed are over here on the South Bound Brook side of the bridge, and they show the history of the bridge and the Battle of Bound Brook. The plaques are a little damaged at this point, unfortunately. People, we can't have nice things, unfortunately. On April 13, 1777, Hessian Captain Ewald's assault over the stone bridge across the Bound Brook was pinned down by murderous fire. Because you know what? Heck with the Hessians. Heck with them. They apparently came over here from New Brunswick and wreaked havoc on the town of Bound Brook. My understanding, our American troops were here trying to protect farmers in the Bound Brook area. So when you cross the bridge, you can come over here, and there's some more markers here about the Battle of Bound Brook on the other side. I'm not going to read this to you, so I encourage you to pause it or come check it out yourself if you're interested. You can also see the historical stone bridge on this side. This was a triple-arched bridge and one of the oldest surviving stone bridges in New Jersey. It's rare and an example of colonial highway engineering. It dates back to, they believe, 1730. And so I'm going to take you down here, but first, here's a recliner. See, again, we can't have nice things, people dumping garbage all over. At present time, the ownership of this site is uncertain, and neither of the counties or towns involved seem to want to take responsibility for how important this location is. So come walk with me down here as I take you to the location where the brief skirmish happened and the murderous fire from a small band of Washington soldiers. After this battle, the combined British and Hessian army of approximately 4,000 men returned to their bases around New Brunswick via River Road and this route. They looted a lot of the homes that were in the area here. So, when we look around today, we can just think about that, right? That's pretty incredible to think that that was going on at that point. People lived here, there were farms here, and that's really scary to think about. Not only is this the oldest bridge in New Jersey, it's actually the second oldest bridge in the United States, which is really cool. So just imagine Hessians hiding here from murderous fire from the American troops. I would love to see the town of Bound Brook and South Bound Brook cleaned up a bit over here so that this could be something that people could come and visit and learn about. The signs are, like I showed you, falling apart, and this could be cleaned up a lot more. And the parking, you have to park along the other side of the bridge and then walk over here to actually come and see this. So if you're from this area and New Jersey, let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this? Is this new information? Did you know about it? Have you ever visited? They do have a Battle of Bound Brook monument that is over on the Bound Brook side at Billy and Legion Park. If you come over here, you can see cannon. This stone right here. This stone right here states information about the Battle of Bound Brook, fought on April 13th, 1777, between 500 American soldiers under General Benjamin Lincoln and 4,000 British troops under Lord Cornwallis. Then just up the road, a short while away to Bridgewater, there's a place called Middlebrook Encampment. The first Middlebrook Encampment took place May 28th to July 2nd, 1777, and then there was a second Middlebrook Encampment that took place on November 1778 to June 3rd, 1779. After the Battle of Trenton and Princeton, Washington's army spent the first several months of 1777 in Morristown, as we had seen, and then they moved their encampment to this area, which was known as Middlebrook, on May 28th. Some of them camped over in this area and then also along the slopes on the Chimney Rock Road area. And there's also a marker on the Chimney Rock area, but we can't really get to it right now with snow, and I believe there's some construction happening for a new road, and they took some trees down, and that's a whole other story, but we just came here today instead. So usually General Washington would take up quarters at a local house. So he would pick the nicest house in the area. However, during the first Middlebrook encampment, he actually just stayed in a tent with the rest of the troops. Fun fact was that Washington was trained as a surveyor, and he had a good understanding of topography and how to choose encampment sites really well. So between this location here, Chimney Rock, and Washington Rock, Washington and his troops had a good vantage point of New Brunswick, where British troops were under General Cornwallis. Something that stands out particularly unique about this location is that during the first Middlebrook encampment on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress met in Philly, and they passed a flag resolution, which stated, "Resolved that the flag of the 13 United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation." So there's a tradition at this location that the first time the Continental Army flew the stars and stripes was at Middlebrook. Today, this park is across from residential areas, and so can you imagine a cannon being pointed at your house? So for the second winter encampment of 1778 to 1779, George Washington chose to return to Middlebrook, and he stayed here at this Wallace House in Somerville. Come visit when it's opened again. Our next stop was at the Van Horn House, located in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Known as Phil's Hill, the home was named after Philip Van Horn, a Bridgewater merchant. Numerous events took place during the Revolutionary War at this site. The home was used various times by Generals Lincoln, Sterling, Lee, and Cornwallis. Van Horn was neutral, and he was not trusted by George Washington. In the backyard of the Van Horn House is Target, and across the street is Somerset Patriots Stadium. With so much history in this area of New Jersey, it's no wonder that's their name. Are you ready for our next stop? Washington Rock in Greenbrook, New Jersey, located in the Watchung Mountains. In June of 1777, this location provided George Washington and his troops valuable ability to be able to observe the British and the Hessian forces in the east. During this time, George Washington and his troops were at camp over in Middlebrook, which today is a very short car ride away from this location. However, they did not have cars, obviously, back then, so it took them a little while to get on over here. Having the protection of being way up high on the Watchung Mountain allowed for the Continental Army to have an advantage point because British forces in New Brunswick greatly outnumbered the Continental Army troops in Middlebrook. The British tried to attempt to lure Washington's forces out of the mountains into the flatlands below. The idea was that they could pull them out of the mountains, get them on the flatlands to fight, and they would be outnumbered. So Washington and the army kept an eye on the activities from the mountains, and they were not lured out of the mountain at that time. And so the British returned to New Brunswick without having provoked a battle with the Continental Army. But over the next few days, things changed, and Washington's forces did come down from the Watchung Mountains, and then the Battle of Short Hills took place on the flatlands below, mainly in the area of Edison and Scotch Plains. And you can learn more about that. We're not going to go to those locations today, but I just wanted you to see Washington Rock. And there's the view of the New York skyline. So if you're still with me and I haven't bored you to death, have you ever been to this location? Leave a comment down below if you have, and also if you drove by here and did not know what it actually was. So now we're going to fast forward another year ahead. June 28th, 1778, we are going to the Battle of Monmouth. So our visit today is at Monmouth Battlefield State Park. It's a beautiful place to come. You can walk, you can go to the visitor center. There's plenty of activities and things to learn about here. So the Battle of Monmouth was one of the longest battles of the Revolutionary War, and it took place at this location here on a brutally hot summer day. From about 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., the fighting was contentious and took place mainly on the grounds of what is now the park area here. And it raged across these fields in very hot, humid weather, not like in the snow that you see here today. I would recommend coming back in the summer and seeing it for yourself, the beauty of it. But we're here today in the winter, again, looking for free things to do, and you can come here for free. Just have to drive here. Now you have to remember this all took place after Valley Forge, right? So if you don't know about Valley Forge, we can maybe go there another day, or you can visit it yourself. But the Continental Army had undergone extensive training after that encampment at Valley Forge. They really learned the art of war during this time. And thank a lot of that to George Washington, but also General von Steuben here. And this is a statue of him. He does kind of look like George Washington here, but it's not. It's General von Steuben. Von Steuben had extensive military training. He helped transform the American Army. So much to learn, so much to see. Let's go to our next stop, Jockey Hollow. We're going to fast forward November 1779. It was Tuesday, November 30th, actually. And General Washington made the choice of Jockey Hollow. So while we're here, we're going to go stop at the Jockey Hollow Visitor Center. It was built in the 1970s. Inside, you'll find an information desk. You can ask questions. They have an exhibit area. There's also a film about the Continental Army's 1779 to 1780 winter encampment here in Morristown. So let's go take a closer look. They also have a souvenir store here, which, you know, I love a good souvenir shop. They got the good merch, stuff that you can get. They also have this small exhibit area, which focuses on the lives of the enlisted men who spent the winter here at Jockey Hollow. So this is a full-scale model of what the log cabins would have looked like. There's also a short movie, and you can also learn about the mural, which is in the front. And the illustration here is of the winter encampment of 1779 to 1780. So about 10,000 soldiers were actually stationed here at Jockey Hollow during that winter encampment. While we were here, we also got to tour the Wick House. This was built by Henry Wick. It's a Cape-style house, which was quite uncommon, but it was built around 1750. It's on a 1,400-acre farm, and the trees here are what attracted Washington's army to the area as a winter encampment because they needed logs to build cabins for shelter and wood for burning for heat and cooking. During that winter, they allegedly chopped down around 600 acres of trees on Mr. Wick's property. And General Arthur St. Clair commanded 2,000 Pennsylvania soldiers and made his quarter here at the Wick's home for the winter. I encourage you to come and take a tour with a park ranger and learn more about it for yourself. There's other things to do here, including see the Grand Parade and the Guerin House as well at the other entrance of the park. To the left of me here was where the farm was for the family. It was nice and close to the house, and there was an outhouse there as well. The soldiers didn't use that outhouse, just the family. Soldiers would probably dig a hole somewhere out yonder in the trees and do their business there. So as cold as it was in Middlebrook and also during Valley Forge, it was much worse here. Our last stop in this journey takes place at Washington Headquarters Museum and Ford Mansion in Morristown, New Jersey. This tall bronze equestrian statue of George Washington overlooks the Ford Mansion, where Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army made his headquarters. The statue was donated by a donor named Miss Ellen Mabel Clark. She wanted to memorialize Washington and his history here in Morristown. The bronze statue was actually cast in Florence, Italy, and unveiled October 19th of 1929. The Ford Mansion is a Georgian-style home which was built in 1774 by Colonel Jacob Ford Jr. Following Ford's untimely death in 1777, his widow, Theodosia Ford, opened her home to General George Washington during the harsh winter of 1779 to 1780. But not only was it just Washington, it was also Martha, the aides, servants, and numerous visiting dignitaries and guards which utilized the mansion, and all while Mrs. Ford and her 4 children remained occupied in 2 of the rooms. Today, the mansion is well preserved, and you can come tour it as part of Morristown National Historic Park. These are guided tours, and we were really excited to get to tour it on this day when we came. Our next stop while we were here was at the Washington Headquarters Museum. The museum has a lot to offer, including different exhibit galleries, there's a film, there's a museum store, and it's a few different levels when you walk inside. I would recommend that you give yourself a couple hours if you come here to the museum and Ford's mansion, because there is a lot to see, and you can read all of this stuff here in the museum and learn all about the winter encampment. And this part of the exhibit lets you pull a lever and find out whether or not you would have died from smallpox. Luckily, it didn't happen to me. You'll learn about how this was one of the harshest winters, and how the site was strategically chosen for its proximity to New York City and Philadelphia. With it being the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, I decided to stamp my book here for my visit. I encourage you to get yourself a passport to national parks so you can do the same. We also decided to get this George Washington pencil sharpener. I want to thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed the ride. If you have any thoughts or ideas on where we should go next, please leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And don't forget to keep it moving.